organizers to be a guest, not really a VIP, but more on the coverage side. So at least nice to meet you here,
Yeah,
Ben,
nice to
aka
meet you
Talking
as
to.
well.
Are we in now, ladies and gentlemen? Are we now
Yeah,
live via satellite there in the Philippines and Australia?
Yep.
all over the world. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so so today we are now having a special Saturday Speed Speak, or SSS, Saturday Speed
Yes.
Speak, with Andrew
Triple
Perry,
S.
Level 3 Australian Track and Field Coaches Association, and me, yours truly, Colonel Abara of the Doctorate School of Sports Sciences, University of Physical Education, Budapest, Hungary. I am having slint ice or chinoy ice because it's quite sunny here in Budapest at 31 degrees. Very hot August summer months here in Europe. So to
Yeah.
give you an idea how it's look like here, let me see if I can show you the facilities. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, I don't know why I'm on inverted side. So okay, so I guess it's only this
Yeah.
way. So with me in the
Okay.
background is the stadium, ladies and gentlemen. So
Yeah.
to show that I'm a legit media, okay, so so that's the best. And yeah, so we hope that you can join us for the next hour or so. Of course, we cannot do the whole live stream, but we can share you the link of the online result, meaning once the results are in, it's automatically linked to a website wherein you can view it in real time, the results that is happening. Because mostly here in Europe, they have this kind of system like the Olympics and the South and the Asian Games, wherein you have the website, but then also once the game started or ended, it will be automatically generated to the website linked to the full electronic timing system of the venue. Andrew, your turn.
Yeah, so I'm just here. I'm guessing we're all in different locations from Sydney, Australia here. It's around 9 in the just after 9. I had a bit of a miscalculation because I didn't realise that tonight the Pepper had Kelly doing the. I thought that was actually tomorrow. So it sort of coincided with being set on civilization, which is ongoing at the moment. But nonetheless, we can sort of see either path. I have some slides I will um, presenting later. I think that some people have requested if talking to Roy can just like a brief explanation because like there's been a lot of questions about the impacts, and I'm basically saying get asked me about the impacts, and like yeah, how am I supposed to know about that? I'm a swim coach. So like
Yeah.
what you are talking to Roy because uh, that's his event.
Yeah. So, so,
Yes, I'm still
so
here.
yeah. Okay.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I didn't really get you there, man. Can you repeat that one? Sorry.
Yeah. Um, like
Yes, I'm
Hardy
still
and
here. I just turned off the cam.
were asking me about
I
VO2
just turned off the
Max.
cam because I'm
Yeah.
upfield. So
Yeah. So yeah. Regarding the VO2 max, it's actually the maximum oxygen consumption that you can take for the intensity that you're increasing. So normally in the Garmin, it was first introduced there, and then it's the usually the zone 5 heart rate. So that the maximum level that you can do until the 90% of that, that's your zone 5, and then that's usually the VO2 max. So yeah, normally if you sprint until at your maximum effort, that's where you can get your VO2 max, and then usually from time to time you can increase the number of your VO2 max depending on your fitness level. So from time to time, if you train a lot, and then if you increase the intensity of your training, your VO2 max also increases. So for me right now, during the winter, I was able to increase my VO2 max until the 65. But currently in the summer, I can't really increase my pace. So after I trained for a 12 weeks during the winter for the 10K, I was able to reach my goal, and then I rested for 4 weeks. After resting for 4 weeks, without doing anything at all, my VO2 max dropped from 65 to 58. And when I started training again for the 10 kilometers, I increased it from 58 until 62 during this summertime. So I did my uh, trial run this morning, time trial this morning, and then yeah, I wasn't really able to achieve my goal, but I really learned a lot this morning from a. Um, seems like I'm still a newbie in the long distance running, and yeah, I thought that I can really manage to maintain a pre-30 pace this morning, but yeah, I was too overconfident, and then I slowly faded for the next 5 kilometers. But the first 5 kilometers I did, I was able to do 18 minutes for that, and the rest next 5 kilometers was just 20 minutes. So yeah, for the elite runners, their VO2 max is around 70 to 90. Like Eliud Kipchoge, I guess, is around 90 plus. Bekele as well. And yeah, just want to advertise also there were upcoming run for elite only London Marathon race. So
Is
yeah,
VO2 max the amount of oxygen that you're able to take in?
yes,
Before, yeah, because I got diagnosed with asthma, which is induced from obviously cold conditions make my asthma worse. Like I'm nearly almost had like a minor asthma attack when I went up into altitude at Baguio at one
yeah,
point. But what I'm saying is what happened was, like with sprints, this is more for sprints performances, like, breathing is
yeah,
also very important as well, like the intake of oxygen. So, I
yeah,
mean, they put me on like nebulizers and Ventolin system, Ventolin, mask sort of system, that sort of thing. And
yeah,
my, I wouldn't say VO2 max, but like they were measuring my lung capacity.
yeah,
And, as I was taking in more and more sort of, nebulizers and, breathing and Ventolin to clear my airways, like they were
yeah,
basically saying that my lung capacity percentage was increasing. Like, for example, like it started off at something like only 69 or 60%, and then
yeah,
it went up to about, I think I was able to get it up to about 92. Like it
yeah,
took about 3 months of treatments to get it up to get my lungs to
yeah. For the sprinters usually, like if I do my strides, I usually start in a like 400-meter run. The VO2 max actually doesn't really hasn't like Usain Bolt or you, for example. If you're going to run a 100-meter event, you don't really touch your VO2 max level at all
yeah,
because you in the starting block
yeah,
your heart rate is at rest, right?
yeah,
So the moment you start running until 100 meters,
yeah,
your heart rate would actually just stop around your zone 2 heart rate.
yeah,
So that's normally around one for me. If I do strides like 100 meters, and then
yeah,
strides is just around 80 to 90% of my maximum effort. And I start usually around 118 bits per minute in the starting block. And then when I finish, my heart rate is just around, will fall around 142 to 145 bits per minute. So it's still completely at the aerobic level. It's at zone 2 heart rate. So yeah, that's just the different. For the 200, it's I guess it's more of a zone 4 heart rate as well. So you don't really touch the VO2 max level.
Yeah, because in the sprints, especially in the one in the 200 meters, you're really
Yeah.
using your anaerobic system. When you run
Yes, that's
400,
right.
using your anaerobic system, but once you get
Yes,
to
yeah,
around 40 seconds into the race, which
yeah,
is
yes.
people
That's yes,
around the 300-meter mark, or if they're really
yeah,
quick, like say Michael Johnson, he
yeah,
hits 40 seconds with about 20-30 meters to go. That's why when they
yes,
hit about the 40-second mark, that's when they go from the anaerobic to the lactic system, which is when you start
yes,
hurting.
yes. That's right.
So the thing
Yes,
is,
that's
with
right.
guys like Michael Johnson and Wade Van Niekerk and the 43, they don't get they don't hurt as much. They don't get that lactic pain with 80 meters to go or 90 meters to go. They get it with about 30 meters to go because that's when they hit 40 seconds. For someone who's slower,
Yes,
like say for example, someone who runs 54 seconds, they might hit 40 seconds in around 300 meters, and then they're going to be
yeah,
hurting the whole 100 meters because
yes, yes.
you got
That,
their lactic system.
yes,
But I guess VO2 max is more for the aerobic. I'm
yeah,
guessing.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So if actually for the 400 meters, usually the athlete reaches its maximum effort. So that's the VO2 max. So usually they really reach their maximum heart rate zone there.
Yep.
Yeah. So would there be someone? Okay. So do we still have other questions to?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, with your how is your running group going at the moment? Because you said that you're mentoring a couple of long distance runners, or you're helping guide a couple of long distance runners. I'm just wondering
Oh
how
yeah.
the group's going and how your membership's going at the moment, and how is that going, and how is it being, like how are some of your athletes coping with COVID and that sort of thing?
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, we're having this group chat. We called it Project Revo, and then we really want to revolutionize the running culture in the Philippines. I know some of the coaches already started it, and then but some, if you ask a long distance runner, they don't know anything about science based training plan. So
Yeah,
what usually happens in the Philippines is mostly of the coaches are still depending on the traditional way of coaching, like there
yeah,
should be volume, mileage, and then that's it. But they don't really focus on the recovery. So what usually it like I've started following the Garmin training plan because I believe that it's a science-based training plan, and also their team really studied, and mostly of the coaches that they hired in order to formulate a training plan in the Garmin is usually experts and then legends in the long distance industry. So
yeah,
yeah, um, I believe that we need to focus on recovery as well because it's the most essential thing that a long distance athlete should include in their training plans. And there's also a point that was made by a U.S. athlete that mostly of the workouts that they do are almost the same. Mostly of the coaching style, the volumes, the intensity, the reps are the same, but uh, the the one that varies is just the recovery. So for like this, the government training plan only gives 4 times per week training, whereas mostly of our student athletes who are coached by a traditional coach are being trained for 12 times per week. So I know that the fitness level of the athlete, they also adjust if the intensity given to an athlete is fully stressed, their fitness level also increases. So, but usually what
Yeah.
happens is that the athletes tend to get what
Yeah.
um, they get frustrated, they work hard for it, and then afterwards they just get injury
I've
in a
got some
very so
examples
yeah
here from the Philippines. We're talking about the lack of importance of recovery in
yes that's right
distance running, but I believe that it's not just in distance running. It's in it's the mentality in a lot of events in the Philippines is like that, because I was just, like talking to several coaches and several sports directors regarding an example I have, because
yeah
what I find is that the mentality is like a lot of Filipino athletes have the mentality in their heads that they don't really comprehend the deep importance of rest as part of the training program. They just feel that rest is not really part of the training program, in which it is. Um, Say, for example, you give an athlete, like a coach, sometimes sometimes it's not actually the coach's fault as well, because sometimes the coach will tell the athlete you're going to have to rest, and the athlete will decide. Well, sometimes the athlete will decide that they don't want to just rest, and they might go out and they might jog 10 laps, or they
yeah
might do some sprints, or they might do some block starts unsupervised. They might, instead of resting, they might actually go and do something which
yeah
is not supposed to be part of the program. And then like obviously, I pointed out in an example I had is that athletes that sometimes the problem is that athletes don't take the rest periods that they're supposed to take between
yeah
workouts, and like they will sometimes the thing is that sometimes these athletes still improve, but they don't improve by as much as if they would have to have the rest period. So for
yes
example, in this case, we have two female sprinters, and they both start off with 13 seconds. One female sprinter A, she basically
yeah
follows the rules that the coach gives her. She follows the
yeah
workout and she takes the rests. In 1 year, that girl who runs 13 seconds goes from 13 seconds to 12.6. The other girl, athlete B, she follows the drills that the coach does, and she does like the workouts the coach gives her. But instead of taking the rests, she goes and does her own workouts. Sometimes she jogs, sometimes she does block starts, sometimes she goes for striding or whatever. In a year's time, that girl goes from 13 seconds to 12.8. So she improves less than the other girl. But the thing is, because the problem here is because she improved a little bit, she now thinks, oh, I still improved. It's okay for
yeah
me to continue doing what I'm doing. So you go to the second year. In the second year, athlete A continues to follow the coach, take the rest intervals, and does the
yeah
workout. He goes from 12.6 to 12.3. Athlete B in the second year goes from 12.8 and stays at 12.8 or goes to 12.7. So in 2 years of taking the rests, the first athlete is improved by zero point 0.7, the second athlete is only improved by 0.3. By the time you get to the third year, that's usually when athlete B starts getting injuries, because not taking the rests really starts to catch up, and they basically start breaking down in the third year. The problem is that it takes the athlete B, because she's still improving in the first year, it's giving her the illusion that she's
yeah
actually like, there's nothing wrong with not taking the rests and doing her own workouts, but it catches up eventually. But it takes the athlete B, like the athlete B just kind of accepts it, and she's like, oh yeah, these injuries are part of training, blah blah blah, like this, just to justify making poor decisions about like neglecting rest. Because yes, it is the coach's responsibility to give the athletes rest. But like if the coach tells the athlete to rest and the athlete just goes and does something else, the coach can hardly be blamed in that situation.
Yes.
If the athlete doesn't follow instructions about rest, because like sometimes it could be another coach is giving unsolicited advice. Sometimes it could be because other athletes are putting pressure on the athlete to go and play some basketball with us instead of going and go and play some basketball with us when the athlete's supposed to be resting. I mean, if an athlete is supposed to be resting and then they go and play 60 minutes of basketball, like that's going to be very hard on the.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, and also mostly of the coaches, I guess, in who is following a traditional way of coaching, is that they just base their coaching style on their experience. So if what they experienced before was just purely volume and then all out effort every time that they trained before, it, that's why I actually admire you and then Ariel, that you really study everything and then getting the latest updates from the is it IAAF, right, or World Athletics Association, and then because the coaching style before, way back, for example 2010, and then right now, one decade after, there's a lot of science discoveries that like for example Eliud Kipchoge, he was interviewed and then he was telling that he doesn't really train in a maximum effort during the training session. He just does a 80% or to 90% of his effort every time he trains, and then he goes 100% during the race only. So yeah, that's what I want to pinpoint in the Project Rebel, is that we need to innovate, we need to follow the trend. As currently, there's a lot of information and latest discoveries that the long distance running events had offered. It's online, everything is there. Why not adapt it, and then why learn from the elite athlete runners? Why keep on following the tradition or the conventional one if you have a science-based one, right? So why would you train for an all-out effort wherein you can get the same result if you just train for 80% of the effort? So that's what in our group chat we really discuss, and then I've shared my experience doing, like, there's also a system called Maffetone system that it was studied by Dr. Maffetone, and then the math method follows a 180 minus your age, and then that's the level of the aerobic that you just need to stay within, so that you can really maximize your zone 2 pace. And yeah, it plus minus 5 depending on the fitness level of the athlete. If a runner usually trains a lot and then his fitness level is quite above the intermediate, you can plus 5 for that, and then minus 5 for those who newbie runners. So it's actually the same thing as the Garmin training plan, and then most people recovery run and then long run just stays at zone 2 heart rate, wherein 220, the maximum heart rate of a runner, the generic formula is just 220 minus the age, right? So 60 to 70% of that maximum heart rate is the zone 2 heart rate zone. And I emphasize to the members of the Project Rebel, when I started the Garmin training plan and then doing the recovery run and then the long run, I started around 6 minutes and 30 seconds pace. I was just literally walking. It's like I was used to training.
regarding
Yep.
how
Sorry.
those listening to this broadcast, how, like from different levels of group, how do they go about joining your group if they want to
Um,
your group?
yeah, because we started from starting line Philippine community, right? SLPH, and then I I just want to share my experience doing the Garmin training plan. So I posted it there, and then I encourage everyone if they want to learn new method of training without doing 100% effort all the time, and then I receive a lot of feedback, and I talked to some of the members, and then why not create a group chat and where I can share my knowledge. So um, it's actually for free for the because I just want to help out the long distance runners who really wants to improve without any access for a coach or without the capability of paying a coach for them to train. So um, that's why mostly some of the members there have the Garmin watches, and then I told them everything, the basic of how to upload the Garmin training plan, and then this is the system that we need to follow, and then that's it. But for some who doesn't have the Garmin watch, what I told them is let's focus on your target pace, and then I have a table that I shared with them. Um, wait, maybe I can share this table to the screen.
Sure.
Uh, yeah.
This here on
Let,
Bob.
yeah. I have this table for the race pace.
Yeah.
I'll try to share this. Wait. Uh, I'll just set this up first. Give me here around 5 minutes.
What type of table is it?
Yeah,
Like a graphic file?
it's actually a table for the pace that you need to do, wherein it's already like this one.
There's a share screen option down the bottom.
Yeah, yeah. I'll share screen. Yeah. So, do you see that one?
Hang on, I'm seeing if I can. Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
Made it.
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
can
um,
enlarge.
yeah. One of our because one of our objective in the Project Rebel is for those who wish to improve their personal best, right? For the 10 kilometers, for the half marathon, or either the full marathon.
Do we have a
So
visual view of this? Because it's a bit difficult. Hang on, let's see how how this can be actually read on the light.
yeah, let me maximize this one if I can.
Yeah, we might need to maximize it a bit because
Wait.
it's a bit hard to.
Yeah, wait.
Yep.
I'll just put my mouse first. Oh wait, I'll just download this one and then open it. Let me stop sharing this one first. Oh no, application window. Yeah. So can you see that one?
Yep, I just
Yeah. Yeah. So
the screen.
what
Oh, that's a bit easier to see. Yeah.
it's better, right? Okay. So what I'm sharing to them is that if your target pace in the race is to do a 4 minutes per kilometer, this one here. So during the week 7 to week 12, you should be already around in this area doing this pace for the interval workout of yours, interval session, and then here's for your recovery run, and then here's for the threshold or tempo runs. So what I suggest to them, if they don't have the Garmin watch and their current fitness level is around here, if they can do around 45 minutes per for the 10 kilometers, so they need to start from here. So week 1 to week 3, I would suggest that they follow this target pace for their training plan, which I give to them as the same as your style. Week 1 and week 2, I give it to them, and then afterwards they report to me every week. And then if they are done with the week 2, that's the time that way I give them the week 3 and week 4. So far so good. They're improving their time following this table here, even though that they don't have the Garmin watches. So for week 4 to week 7 or week 6, I suggest that they need to do around this level right now. So for week 7 to week 12, they'll be around here so that they can really achieve their goal pace of 4 minutes per kilometer for the 10-kilometer run. So I've studied this table and then I base it from my experience. I have the Garmin watch and then yeah, it really fits the table here. If I do my interval section like 1 to 3 minutes, usually my pace is around this, around here, because my goal was to do a sub 38 for the 10 kilometers. So I need to be doing this pace around here. So when I check, it really fits the range of this interval session written in the table. And then when I was doing the long runs and recovery run, it's also around in this level here as well. So that's why I wait, yeah. So that's the reason why I stop sharing. That's the reason why I concluded that for even though that they don't have the Garmin watches, all they need to do is follow this table for them to achieve their goal, for them
So
to improve.
it sort of has like if the target time is, for your example, 38 minutes, then this is the
Yeah.
intensity you have to be going at training to
Yes.
develop enough
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
right pacing and the right amount of stamina
Yeah.
to be able to, and speed and endurance to be able to do that speed. It's like,
Yes.
for example, with the girl I'm working with in the 800, who's running the 3,000 meters as a goal, but
Yeah.
I'm starting work with her next week. Her goal,
Yeah.
my goal is to get her quicker in the shorter distances first, so she has more speed to play around with in the longer distances. And like going off 80% percentages is really good, because 80% is basically striding. It's not like
Yeah.
in sprints, 80% is striding. It's not a full out sprint. It's like a stride.
Yeah.
And like it's not like it's like you're basically striding and you're relaxed and you're comfortable, and it's the right amount of speed to be able to practice your technique properly, your running form and your technique. So like her goal is to run, my goal is for her time is 2:54, and I figured that if she 80% of 254 is 337.5, so my goal for her to run 3 800s on 3 minutes rests and about 330 to 340. So we want her to be running at, like, because 254 is kind of slow, and I figured that, since she hasn't really done much proper training, she should be able to get a bit faster than 254. I mean, probably somewhere in the 240s eventually. But, as my instructions are, first and second run, you can run 330 to 340, that's your aim. But if you, on the third run, you can go harder. If you want on the third run, you can go a little bit, you can put more effort into the third run if you feel like putting in more effort. It's run, like 320 or 325 or something like that. Considering she runs 120 for the 400, if she's going to run at 330 to 340, that means she's running at about 145 to 150 400 meter pace, which is about 25 to 30 seconds slower than her all-out 400 meter speed. So she should be able to manage that pace for 3 reps.
Yeah. So that's why I am amazed of the result of some of the members in the Project Reva. Is like they started their recovery and then long run pace and in a very at zone 2 heart rate, right? They started for week 1. They started 6 minutes per kilometer. When they were finished doing the week 4, they were already doing it at 5 minutes and 30 seconds per kilometer pace.
Yep.
At the same heart rate zone. So it's a 50. Yeah,
your program is good because you're similar to me in the aspect where you really use spreadsheets and data to actually, calculate what the athlete needs to run. It's the same concept with weights training. Weights training is basically just tricking the body into adapting and, adapting and like gradually just building itself up. It's the same with sprints. It's the same concept with distance. It's basically developing the body to sort of just gradually build itself up so it can cope with greater stimuli, and like the more structure a program has, and like people often say to me doing data, they basically if you look at data and statistics and your spreadsheets, people are going to be like, oh yeah, the best thing you describe it as is for a training program is it's glue. It's basically glue. People don't appreciate glue as much as they should because they say, oh, glue, you can't eat it. It doesn't taste good. It's not, it's not a very interesting substance. But at the end of the day, if you have a house, like if you have like glue or mortar, that holds the bricks together, so the house still stands properly, and that's what that's what data is. It basically is the glue that holds it together.
Yeah, that's why I totally agree with you. If you're telling about it's justified by data, right? So it's very you cannot deny data. The facts are there, right? So if people would tell you that you're wrong, and then you prove them with a justify you have a data with you. They can't really deny it. It's some of the coaches would tell that the athlete is winning, but are they really improving, right? So the goal in the Project Rebel is like if I were to be a coach someday, I would be humiliated if I train someone or a runner or an athlete with them improving maybe after 3 months. If I was training them, and then I wouldn't really pursue coaching anymore. It's useless because
it's like
the objective of a coach should be to let the runner improve, and
Yeah,
that without letting without much risk for having them to be injured, right?
exactly.
So yeah, if I were a coach and then 2 years from now the athlete is still not improving, I
Yeah,
would really I guess I need to resign as a coach because
it's like
there's no point.
when I pointed out three elements of coaching or being an athlete.
Yeah,
There were three
yeah,
ones, and it's difficult to rank them in order. But like, you know, one is safety. So, you know,
yeah,
is your program safe? Like, is it
yes,
safe in a sense where that you have an adequate amount of rest as part of safety as well, because it prevents injuries. If the athlete does
yeah,
get injured, adapt your program to injuries. So is it safe?
yeah,
Like also, is it safe? Like if you're getting your athletes to do plyometrics, are they doing it on a safe
yeah,
surface, or are they doing it on concrete and wetting their joints? Then
yeah,
the second element of being a coach is enjoyment. Are the athletes enjoying what they're doing, or are you doing the same
yes, that's right. Yeah,
variation with the
the,
time?
yeah,
And
the,
you know, say for example, guys are doing weights workouts, and
yeah,
eventually I get a little bit bored of doing weights workouts all the time. So then I have
yes,
to add pull resistance training as an
yeah,
alternative to get a similar result to what my objective is. The third
yeah,
of training is performance and improvement of the athletes. So are the athletes improving on the program? That's why when I
yeah,
design a program, like, and I'm working off percentages. I'm working off
yeah,
percentages of what the athlete is aiming to do, not what the athlete has done already. So, say for
yeah,
example, and of course, when you go for improvements and performances, you have the athlete has to come up with a goal, but you need to like sort of like talk and convince
yeah.
the athlete to make the goal more realistic. Like,
Motivate the athlete and
yeah,
then make sure that the
if
athlete is enjoying what he's doing, right?
we had an athlete and they're 3,000 meter runner, and they're sort of like not like a advanced 3,000 meter runner, and they go, I want to improve 30 seconds in a year. That might be
Yeah,
realistic. It might be possible to improve 20 or 30 seconds in a year for 3,000 meters. That might be doable. But if an athlete basically says, um, I'm a 9 minute 30, I'm a 9 minute 30 3,000 meter runner, and by next year I want to run 8 minutes flat.
yeah,
Then yeah, that's not like you need to sort of
yeah,
like
yeah,
talk them into being a bit more realistic about
yeah.
their goals.
Realistic, yes, yes. And then the
Really,
gradual, yeah, the improvement needs to be gradual.
there's nothing wrong with them being ambitious and saying, I want to go to the Olympics
Yeah,
one day, or I want to be a national champion, I want to be a world champion. But
yeah,
sometimes it takes more than a year for that to happen. Like it's
yes,
like
that's right. Yeah,
you want to keep the athlete. If the athlete has a long-term dream or goal to do something, then that's great. And as a coach, you should like sort of believe in the athlete as much as possible if that's what they want to do. But
yeah,
at the same time, you need to make sure that there are realistic steps along the way to that bigger goal, like, and
yeah,
that the athlete accepts and understands what sort of commitment needs to go into getting to that level, not
yes,
just was just saying I'm going to do it without knowing all the physical, changes and adaptations and neurological programming that needs to go into place to get to that, and
yeah,
all the gains and like all the race experience that needs to go to get from A to B.
yeah. So one point that you pinpointed there is the athlete needs to enjoy what he's doing, right? So mostly of my high school teammates before, so um, I know that a lot of long distance runners or middle distance runners can really relate to this because usually the coaches would really give them so much workout, so much volume, and then so much intensity that they end up vomiting every time in the oval or even in the field, right?
Yeah,
So if every day you're going to vomit in the oval, would you still enjoy training? It's like
let's put it this
no,
way.
right? So
Let's
it's
put it this
it's
way.
an all out effort. Yeah,
Depending on your event, but let's say, for example, you're going to throw, you're going to have you're training for 400 because you're really pushing your lactic system. But say, for example,
Yeah.
if you're a 100-meter runner, every day it's not going to be a vomit session. For example, if you're
Yeah.
throwing up, you're doing, you know, six 30-meter block starts, and then you're throwing that.
Yeah.
But if you're training, for example, let's say you're running, I don't know, 100 three meters with
Yeah.
28 meters, or you're doing, like, for example, the Cappy meters, and then
Yeah.
meters,
So
200 meters 5 minutes, 200 meters 4 minutes, 200 meters 3, down to 3-minute rests. Of course,
yeah.
you're going to throw up in that sort of session because that's
Yeah.
your system. So, of course,
Yeah.
you're going to throw up.
Yeah.
400 meters, and you
Yeah.
really push to throw up. That, I mean, around that 400, I throw up. Like, that's because I
Yeah.
really pushing my lactic. But you shouldn't throw up every session. But if you train
Yes,
for
that's right. Yeah.
quite a bit in training.
Yeah. That's why I can't really blame some of the athletes who think that who just ended their career, running career, in
Look,
a
if
very
you,
early
if
stage,
your
right?
teammates
Yeah.
were throwing up almost every day,
Yeah. It's a
there's something
yes.
wrong with the
There's something
program.
wrong.
Yeah, if you're going
Yes.
to throw up every day, that shouldn't be throw it. You know, if someone will throw up maybe once, maybe twice a week maximum,
Yeah.
that can be kind of expected, especially like in some programs. But if the athletes are throwing up every day, that basically
Yeah.
means it's not just the training; something's going wrong with their bodies, and that basically
Yeah.
means that they're really starting to burn out if they're throwing up
Yeah.
every day. Yeah, that would almost be like a worth going to the doctor about. I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, for example, in the long distance event, like for women, for the girls, some of them, um, the coaches will really give them a lot of volumes,
Yeah,
and then the distance. Well, and yeah, they sometimes they end up throwing up, and then the training, they don't really enjoy training anymore. So mostly of them just quit running. I can see, we've checked some of the university, right? Why is
yeah,
that they have DNF most of the time? There's a university that we've checked that
yeah.
they have DNF, and then
Girl that we were that particular
yes,
girl I had some questions about. She's had like quite a lot of what's that treatment you have where you do the blood plasma? She had ankle problems apparently, and
yeah,
she had like, what's the treatment called where you take blood from one part of the body and then you move it into another part of the body? It's like a plasma sort of treatment. She's had that
yeah,
done on her already.
okay, yeah. So yeah, so I guess the most that the one that you pointed out that I we really emphasize in the Project Rebel that you should love what you do. So that's why everyone in the group chat is quite enjoying. We're talking about long distance running, not just about training. We talk about nutrition. We talk about recovery. We all the angles we're discussing, and then most and we motivate one another. It's like we inspire each other to do our best and then continue to improve. Even though some of the members there are around 40 plus, and then some of the members there are around 30, late 30s, and then some of the members there also are student athletes who can't find a way for them to improve that much anymore because whatever 100% effort that they do,
Yeah,
they they plateaued. Their performance just stayed the same.
yeah.
So what I'm telling them is that
I honestly think
yeah,
that if an athlete's you know, like if you look at an athlete and they haven't improved for 3 seasons in a row, they should really consider what they're doing in terms of coach, because like 3 seasons in a row is already a good enough indication. You know, the improvement pad of an athlete for 3 seasons is a good enough indication that they need to be doing something differently, whether that's changing coach, whether that's, you know, like changing their attitude and being more focused on training, because sometimes it's not always the coach. Sometimes it could be the
that's right. I agree.
player mobile legends, or you know, like, or whatever, girlfriend or whatever. It could be boyfriend, girlfriend, mobile legends. You know, like,
that's right.
like there could be lots of distractions there, or you know, or the athlete's coach needs to change the program. Those are things that need to, like, you know, happen if an athlete's not improved for such an extent of time. Something needs to be done differently. You can't keep doing the same thing and expecting, you know, by something's going to happen.
Actually, the current generation of long distance runner right now in the Philippines are quite lucky, because there's a lot of information that they can get online, and then it's just up to them to filter what's right and then what's not right. So unlike before, in my time, I need to borrow the books of my coach and then read a lot of stuff where, for me to improve, what should I do, and then what have the elite runners, the author of the book, have done for really improve their running pace.
To me,
And
having all that information is a good and a bad thing, because, like,
there's pros and cons.
The information, but like, excluding the bad information that's out there, assuming that you're just going after the good information, which is going to help you more. There's so much information out there on the internet, like not like the days of the internet where you used to go and get a book out of the library, and you know that was basically like what you were limited to. But now it's like, you know, there's like billions of books worth of information on the internet, so it's very easy to become oversaturated with information to the point where it gets confusing. It's like with programs, there should really be, you know, even though there's a lot of scientific input into the programs, that they should be kept as simple as possible for the athlete. Basically, with a lot of Filipino athletes, the thing is that, like, too much instructions and too much information can overwhelm them. So what I find is that, you know, like, I just, with sprint programs that I do, even sprint middle distance or whatever, I just follow the templates of a British coach, and I just adapt them a little bit, and I consult with them, and I do like a little bit of learning and that as well on the side, and you know, learn from some of the American coaches as well, and you know, like pick up good tips from, you know, the top American coaches and that sort of thing, and also the coaches here in Australia. But like, I use the British coaches template because for me it's easy to follow and it's easy to explain to an athlete. I don't bog the athlete down with too much confusing, you know, like, you know, terms. Because me, I have like.
And the British standard uses the metric, right? So it's same as what we use. So
I know I've done reading on it, and I know there's a lot of different phases and periodization, but I keep it as simple as possible. I keep it a general, specific, and competitions phase. I don't go into things like, you know, strength period, and things like, you know, building power, strength periods, and all the subdivisions of those three basic, you know, phases, because like if I go into that will really just confuse the athlete. But as a coach, I can consider, though, I should be, you know, I program those in, but I don't give all that to the athlete, because it's just going to confuse them, because the athlete just wants to know. Theoretically, the athlete just wants the athlete should really just be thinking, what do I need to do, which the coach is giving me, that will make me get faster? What is it that I need to do? What is it that I need to work on? And they basically need to be guided more so in that case. Well, hopefully, because the thing is that I find as well in the Philippines that sometimes
Yeah.
is when athletes stop improving, they
Yeah.
deny it in a way in which they have made some poor decisions in the sense where they deny it and they basically start trying to justify it by making excuses in terms of
Yeah.
it happened because of this, it happened because of that. That's
Yeah.
what I find is that there's a lot of justification going on if the athlete is not improving. If you look, like for example, 3 years, there could be a lot of different scenarios there. The athlete could have just progressively improved every year.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
athlete could have improved, gotten injured, and then declined
Yeah.
again, or the athlete could have just stayed the same, or the athlete could
Yeah.
have been declining each year. So there's lots of different possible, scenarios to what's going on with the
Yeah.
athlete. But looking at UAP data, which I will
Yeah.
touch base with in a while because I've got some
Yeah.
to present here. But what I'm saying is the UAP data is showing me that athletes that are going to the UAAP, in the best case, I've compared every single event. Well, not, but like what I've published so far, I've done all the women's track events so far, and I'm starting on the men's track
Yeah.
events now. The data from the
Yeah.
women's track events is showing me in the best case scenario, and what it does is basically we're taking data from the last 5 UAAPs and we're getting the average improvement or decline for each school based on all the number of athletes.
Yeah.
So it's basically
Yeah.
the athlete improved by this amount in time. And
Yeah.
there's, say, for example, there's 5 athletes at Adamson or for example, or Ateneo or UP, there's 5 athletes,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And athletes that only played 1 year in the UAAP in an event are not counted
Yes.
because you can't compare an athlete if they've only played once in the
Yeah.
UAAP.
Yeah. I
And the
observed
reason,
that one.
yeah, the reason why I'm only comparing the UAAP results and not results of UAAP athletes from National Open, weekly relays, and all of those is because the
Yeah.
sports directors do not really care about the results from other competitions. They only care about how well the athletes at their schools perform at the UAAP because that's where they get the points. So the
Yes.
peak
Yes.
competition for a UAP athlete is the UAAP, not the nationals, not the
Yeah.
PNG, not
Yes. That's right.
not the other meets. The sports directors couldn't care less because the sports
Yeah.
directors are getting them on scholarships, so they perform well
Yeah.
at the UAAP. So
Yeah.
what I'm saying, that's why I'm only using the performances at the UAAP. So you have an athlete, they play 4 years at UAP. It compares their time in their first UAP to their time in their last UAAP. So, and then that's the difference that goes down as one performance, and then that's done for all the athletes that played more
Yeah.
than one UAP in that event. All those times are added up and divided by the number of athletes, and that's the score for the school. So
Yeah.
that's what I was able to do as the ranking. And when I did that, the
What
data
did
was
you observe?
interesting. What it showed me is I was able to rank all the schools from best performer to least
Yeah. Yeah.
improved. And what it
So
showed me is that the best schools at best had very minor improvements, and the schools at the bottom had declines. That's basically
yeah.
what it showed me. There wasn't really data that showed like schools had massive improvements. The best
Yeah.
case scenario was slight improvements from year to year, and that's what the
Yeah.
data showed me based on the UAAP women's
Yeah.
events. Is that there was the best case scenario was slight improvements, the worst case scenario was declines, and
Yeah.
so that means even the number one schools were having very slight improvements if you compared that to schools in other countries.
Yeah. That's why I'm wondering why. I opened this up in the Project Railroad group chat where why is that the U.S. High school girls can do a 15 minutes for the 5K, wherein the men's UAAP, the maximum, the only thing that they can do is around 15 minutes as well.
It hasn't gone
So
up 15 minutes yet at the UAP, if I'm not mistaken. It's about
yeah,
15,
yeah,
20,
15,
15,
yeah, 15. Yes, that's right. Yeah. So why is that the high school girl in the US can do a 15 minutes, wherein our men's college or university men can only run that much? So our long distance running currently hasn't really innovated at all or adapted to the trend where there's a lot of things that we need to learn and then need to really apply in long distance running in general in the Philippines. Like we always emphasize about in the Project Revo that why not adapt altitude training wherein it's a clear cut that mostly of the long distance runners in the US goes to altitude for them to train for 4 weeks and then afterwards compete in the sea level and
The
really
interesting thing
improves.
to
Yeah,
do here in this case example is you probably would find it very easy to access the training program of a UAAP collegiate
yeah,
male runner. And then if you could access the training program of a high school girl who runs 15 minutes in the United States, and then basically do a comparison of what, what the major differences are in terms of training. Because
yeah,
theoretically, if a girl, in my view, if a high school girl, like probably what a Caucasian high school girl is running 15 minutes for the 5,000 meters, they're probably maxed out to what they can actually run in terms of their strength and their ability. That's basically them on a very good program, maxed out to what they can do, versus somebody in the UAAP and a male athlete who's running 15 minutes when they should probably be running at least 14. Because
yes,
if they
that's
were
right. Yeah, I agree.
running 14, because physically a high school girl is probably maxing out running about 15 minutes, but like you know a collegiate male UAP runner should physically be able to run 14, not well, at least 14.
Yeah,
Like with on a good program of good rests, recoveries, and obviously with the altitude training
yeah,
and other factors. But the other thing you need to consider as well is that in the United States,
yeah,
and this is another thing that you might want to note, in the United States, these high school girls, what do they do during? They have off seasons as well, and during off
yes,
season, they run cross country, and cross country is
yes,
done
that's
on
right.
the
Yeah,
difference with the Philippines is that
we only
they
have
run roads.
outdoor competition.
Road is very hard on the joints compared
Yeah,
to like running on
yeah,
grass.
cross country. Yeah,
Yeah, cross country. We don't have cross country. We don't have off season.
yeah.
It's warm the
So
whole year, so they think it's okay to just run hard the whole year because it's
yeah,
always summer in the Philippines.
yeah, yeah, yeah. To touch base on that is that in the competition in the US, like not just in the US, Australia, New Zealand, or UK. They have outdoor competition, they have indoor competition, and then they have cross country, right?
Yeah,
Unlike in the Philippines, we only have outdoor competition, and then
yeah.
after that, we just have fun runs. That's it. So, what, why not include also a cross country races in the Philippines
They have
in the
trail
future,
running,
right?
but really like
Yeah,
big at the moment.
yeah. So we we haven't really done that much to really innovate about long distance running. So
Also, if you've
I,
read, if also something what the Japanese do differently to, like I don't know if
yeah,
you've read Way of the Runner
yeah, yeah,
by Flynn.
yeah,
They have
yeah.
what
It's
you
a
call they have ekidens, which are like
decadence. Yeah, it's a
ekiden, which are road
running.
relays.
Yeah,
Your road relays, which are great fun, and like they haven't implemented
yes,
here either.
yeah. Actually, we have that road relay in Negros. Actually, every district of Negros always joins the annual relay, and then they compete for a cash prize. But still, um, that's why I guess mostly of the long distance runners are coming from Iloilo. The strong ones are coming from Iloilo, um, also in Negros, like Rene Herrera,
Yeah.
Julius Sermona, and also Bertek is also from Iloilo,
And if you go way back,
but he went South
yeah.
Cotabato, right? Yeah,
If you go way back,
yes,
I mean, even late great Jimmy De La Torre and
yeah,
Herman Russo,
they're
they're
from
coming all the way
Iloilo.
down. Yeah.
Yeah,
If you go way back, like a lot of the best athletes in the country for any region come from Iloilo. Like
yeah,
that's across the spectrum, across all the events,
yeah,
especially men. They all
yeah,
a lot of them hailed from Iloilo
yeah,
originally. They
yeah,
came from Iloilo, or they
yeah,
were born there and moved somewhere else.
yes, yes.
I
So,
think even Castro,
Chris,
even Castro as well.
yes, yes. So the running culture in that province compared to the other provinces would would be very nice to emulate, right? Because
Yeah,
if they're improving that much before, like Julius Sermona and Rene Herrera, they were able to do a sub 15 for the 5K, and then they really trained um, also at Baguio.
yeah,
So during their times, Baguio was it's their training ground, right? So it's how many feet above sea level? It should be around 3,500 feet.
yeah.
So that that's what we need to have in the Philippine long distance running, I guess. That if there's a clear cut that altitude training should be included in the long distance running, why not send our long distance running to train there? Why would you let them train?
At
Uh,
Clark. Yeah, well,
yes,
we train at Clark. If it at Baguio, it's better for training because
yeah,
with I also think that with long distance runners, unlike with sprints, you need a
yeah,
climate which is a little bit cooler
yeah,
to be able to for the athlete to be able to work a bit harder. They need like a
yeah,
little slightly colder climate.
yeah,
Unlike in sprints where you need somewhere which is like, you sprint fast on hot, steamy days.
yeah, yeah,
Long distance you need like a slightly cooler sort of temperature to be able to get a better performance. But they used
yeah,
to have the athletes based out at Baguio. I mean, even if they
yeah.
don't have to, you don't have to send the sprinters and the
Yes, that's right. Yeah,
jumpers out to Baguio, but like I don't see what would be the harm in just sending a handful of athletes up to teachers camp up in Baguio and just letting them train there when there's already a facility up there
that's right. Yeah,
to
and also like uh who's that? The 3K who preceded Rene Herrera, Christopher Olbok, right?
yeah.
He also trained at Baguio, and then that's where he was able to do a sub 9 for the 3
He
kilometers
attributes
steeplechase.
like Allbook was primarily coached by Ojon Arteaga
Yeah,
when he was in Manila, but when he went to Baguio, he like Ojon let him work with Mario Castro,
yeah,
and that's
Mario Ducasse.
yeah. He told me that like Castro really got him ready for the Sea Games once he got sent
Yeah,
to Baguio, like doing
yeah,
his base training with Ojon. Castro really got him ready for the Sea Games because he was before he was going to Baguio and other competitions, he might only be running 920s, like around
yeah,
925,
yes,
920,
yes,
930
yeah,
during the
like
season.
what
But
John
then
L. Gabosha did.
yeah, then after he came back from Baguio he came back from Baguio about a month before the Sea Games, or
Yeah,
a couple of weeks before the Sea Games. He'd go to the Sea Games and he'd run 8:55 or 9 minutes,
yeah,
or
yes,
8:50,
yes,
or he'd run good. He'd run much better
yeah,
at the Sea Games than he
yeah,
did for the rest of the year because
yes, that's right.
Baguio got
Yeah,
ready for it.
yeah. So
He'd go maybe
that's
train 3 months in Baguio, and then
yeah,
1 month or a few weeks before the Sea Games or wherever, he would go back down to Manila and then fly out and still have the effect from that 3 months, 4 months in Baguio.
yeah. Because that's what we are tackling in the Project Rebel group chat is that why not let the PATAFA or PSC build a lot of running facilities at altitude for us to really improve our long distance runners.
The other thing that
performance, right?
you know
So
about Ulbuk is that he's not so much about going on lots of long, slow runs. He did a lot
yeah,
of speed. Like, for example, like,
interval.
yeah,
Yes.
he would do like something like, I don't know, like 10 to 20 150s in training at a decent pace. You know, he'd be running like sometimes, you know, like I was doing my 150s in training, and Allbook was running with me for the 150s, and you know, like I was
Yeah,
running them 18 to 19 seconds because I was doing,
yeah,
you know, I might do 8 150s in 18 to 19 seconds, and you know, Allbook
yeah.
was keeping up. You know, like
Okay.
he was keeping up in 18 to 19 seconds, so he was running them pretty solid as well. That's
Yeah,
why you know, he had
yeah,
he developed good speed, you know,
yeah,
like good interval speed for the steeplechase, and that's why I felt,
yeah.
you know, he was really good because I mean he could run a 450 seconds. He was a
Okay.
50-second 400-meter man, so like
Yeah,
that's why he can run, you know, below 9 minutes because he's a 50-second
yeah.
guy. There was a guy in New
Yes,
Zealand
yes.
I trained with who ran 8:30 something, and you know he
Yeah.
was like a 49 50-second 400-meter guy as well.
So the question there is, what if Ulbok was able to train around 7,000 feet above sea level, right?
Yeah,
Baguio was just around 3.5, and then if you give Christopher Ulbok the chance to train at 7,000 feet above sea level, what would have been his result for the 3 kilometers
might have been
steeplechase?
about 10 seconds
It's like,
faster in my view, but like it would have been hard. I think it would have been really hard for anybody, even Allbook, to get near that record of Hector Beggio. I think that, you know, take into consideration Allbook was about, what was at his best, he was about 8:55 or 8:50
yeah,
8:55, I think he was.
because if you just mentioned that Ulbok can run a 50 seconds for the 400-meter run,
Yeah,
and then Evan Jager of the US,
yeah,
he can run around 49, 48 for
yeah,
the 400 meters run.
yeah,
And his personal best at 3,000 meters steeplechase is 8 minutes. And then he
yeah.
usually trained at 7,000 feet above sea level.
Mm.
So, so that's what we lack in the Philippines. We
I
don't
think
have any
Allbook get
facilities.
that sort of speed. You know, he certainly had the speed, but to get those sort of times, he not only would he have had to train at sea level, he would have had to maintain his speed and do a lot more mileage than
Yeah,
what he was doing to be able to run like
yeah,
those sort of times. And I think
yeah,
it's a lot harder than it sounds to be able to
yeah,
stay at 50 seconds or 100-meter sprint after when you're doing 150 kilometers or 140 kilometers a week, because
yeah,
doing all that like that long slow running diminishes your speed. So
yeah,
it's sort of like you want both, but you don't. But it's hard to like not diminish one element from, you know, the element of speed being compromised by doing those long slow runs,
yeah.
and vice versa. The element of not having that endurance doing all the speed.
Yeah, actually, their slow runs is for me. I guess it depends upon their fitness level. If their slow run is like Kipchoge, right?
Yeah,
His easy run is already around 4 minutes and 15, maybe better than 4 minutes.
yeah,
So, because he can run a maximum of 2 minutes and 30 for 1K, right?
yeah,
So if Obo is like he can still do easy runs because
yeah.
it should be part of the training plan. But the benefit that we need to have is that the altitude training is clear cut that it produces more red blood cells due to the body is adjusting and then producing more red blood cells and hemoglobin, right? Due to the thin air in the altitude. So what that's the main question here is why not our Philippine like Patafa or PSC is really building facilities there above sea level of around 7,000 feet,
Yeah.
where we also have those kind of elevations in other regions. So
The
why
question:
not?
do the PSC and the Patafa, are they prioritizing long distance running at the moment? Because from what I see, it seems like it's more prioritizing the sprints and the jumps. That's how
Yeah,
I feel that those events are getting more focus right now
yeah,
than the traditional middle and long distance event. More emphasis is being put onto the jumps and the sprints at the moment.
yeah, yeah,
Which I'm not saying that's not a bad thing. What I'm saying is that, like, the long distance does have potential, though. That's my viewpoint on that's my viewpoint on it. Is that, like, yeah, things like even long distance and even more so the walkathon events, they need more attention as well in
yeah.
terms of
Yes,
they've
that's
been
right. Yeah,
walkathon's been even more neglected than long distance because not even a single
yeah,
walkathon was selected for the Sea Games, and
yeah,
like I don't even think there's any walkathoners in the national team right now. So I think
yeah,
that event needs more focus. I mean, that's an event that they should put into the road running. Like, that's an event. Walkathon is an event that they should be putting into the road running events, because it's like
yeah,
an event which some of the general public might be interested in, and
yeah.
it's hard to put a walkathon on during a 1 day athletic meet because it takes up so much of the program.
Yes, yes. Yeah. So we've touched base also about the VO2 max, right? So the more for if you have loads of red blood cells in your body, or the units are high, and hemoglobin level, iron level also. So I guess that those long distance runners that we have right now wouldn't really reach if they have a lot of blood in their system. They won't really reach their VO2 max level every time that they compete, because what they have, what they'll reach is just their anaerobic threshold, their anaerobic level, the zone for heart rate. So it's straightforward that our every runner needs oxygen in their muscles every time that they're running, and then the more oxygen that is being distributed to the system means that the runner doesn't get tired that much easily.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are the things that we are talking about in Project Rebel, where mostly of the long distance runner doesn't have any information at all. They what they know only is that they train hard, no
Yeah.
pain, no gain, right? So, but
This group you have, it includes athletes. Are there also coaches in the group as well?
yeah, actually, not really a certified coach. They have we have coaches there. Uh, some are just community coaches. They are
Yeah.
not university based.
Yeah.
So if only that's why us the long distance runners in the Philippines should help each other out.
Yeah.
What I'm suggesting to the members there, if they finish a training plan and then if they were able to improve their time with just training 4 times per week,
Yeah.
I advise them to share their knowledge to their community, because why would you
Yeah.
train like more than 10 times per week if you can get the same benefit
Yeah.
in training very efficiently, right?
It's about the quality,
So
not the quantity.
yeah,
You're
yeah,
correct. It's like when I was with the sports academy, like the athletes I was training were getting lots of rest intervals, and they didn't have to train as hard because they were just like doing like more on drills, and you know,
Yeah.
we were doing speed work and that sort of stuff. Whereas the coach training the 4 and the 800 runners, he was basically really vlogging them, and they were
Yeah.
basically like they were pretty much throwing up and you know like really hurting and tired and stuff. But then
Yeah.
they said it's not fair. They told one day one of the girls told one of my athletes, it's not
Yeah.
fair. You guys don't even train as hard as us. You guys don't even have to train as hard as us, and
Yeah.
you're getting results. Basically, that's what
Yeah.
they said. They said it's not. It does.
Yeah. So
It's not right. It's not right. That's basically what was said.
yes. Yeah, that's why there's a quote, right? We
Yeah.
shouldn't really train hard. We should really train smart, right?
Correct.
So
You should train
so
smart.
that
You
yeah,
don't need to train hard. You have to train smart.
yeah.
Training
So yeah,
the resting is about resting, not this, no pain, no gain thing, which is true to some extent. But
yeah,
my coach, when I was beginning off as an athlete, told me there are two types of pains. There is the type of pain
yeah,
that just comes with training that you can sort of fight through, and there's the type of
yeah,
pain which you have to address and basically know when
yeah,
to stop sometimes.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, so yeah, and also we are in the Project Rebel group chat. We also touching about supplements, where what should they take for them
Yep.
to recover that fat faster compared to without taking any supplements at all, and same as to uh, increasing their red blood cells levels, and then the hemoglobins without taking EPDs. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's being shared also by Evan Jager in his interview after the race that when he was able to run an 8 minutes for the 3,000 meter steeplechase, and then he was interviewed what he was taking, what supplements was he taking, and then because mostly of the negative critics, are just telling that he might be taking EPDs, and then he was able to do that time, and then it's really disgraceful to for the critics to criticize immediately, wherein Evan Jager was putting in the hours in the at altitude, and then he was taking iron supplements and then vitamin C to fight anemia. So
Yep.
those are the things that I guess, we need to include in the long distance event that could really improve our athletes in the future generations to come.
Okay. I'll just quickly have some slides I'd like to share
Yeah.
with the group. There's just some news here, and also a bit of what I was discussing about the UAP data. This is
Yeah.
mainly to do with sprints. Well, it's pretty much to do with sprints, but I'll just bring up the information that I have here. So, okay, so for today, the first thing I want to mention is I have to make a correction because I made a bit of a blunder the other day because it was very difficult to find results on the IAAF. I always get my results from the IAAF first. If I can't find them on the IAAF websites, my fallback are Track and Sun and Track and Sun and TFRSS and Direct Athletics. I found it very difficult to find results on Christina Knott, the SEA Games 200 meter champion, and I was quickly corrected by her coach Rossan Griffin, who gave me some very useful information on performances that I did not know about. So I'm now, just posting with his contribution some of the performances he provided me. So Christina Knott has actually ran 11:51 this year prior to running the 11:75 in her second race. 11:75 was done into quite a big headwind. So just 11:51, 11:52 she's done with legitimate wins. The quickest times in Southeast Asia this year for the 100 meter dash. They're a bit quicker than the 11:56 posted by Chin of Vietnam, the SEA Games champion from Vietnam in at the Speedy Cup back in June. So Christina Knott's actually running about 0.04 faster than her SEA Games time, and she's about 0.09 from her PB, which was set in, I think, Taipei during the Asian Grand Prix last year.
Yeah.
So Olympic qualification for the 100 meters is 11.15. In 200 meters, Christina Knott ran a wind-assisted 23.21, which is 0.2 off her Southeast Asian Games record. So Olympic qualification is 22.80. The qualification period for the SEA Games is November 30, 2020 to June 7, 2021. At the moment, we are on the qualification period because a lot of people are not really being, considered at the moment. Okay. Next. So I just was through this. So just some updates on Arch and Bags. Interview. He has 9 Grand Prix coming up next year. Hopefully he gets to go to most because of COVID qualifications. There's no 200 meters at the Olympics, so he's only going for the 1 and the 400 meters. The 100 and 400 standards are 11:10 and 50.4. Bags at PBs are 10.6 and 46. So even if he doesn't get near PB because of his current shape, he's still well under them to actually be able to hit somewhere in between and hit those standards. There were 6 other athletes who were there qualifying for the Olympics and for the Paralympics, including 5,000 meter runner Raul Galvero, who is also partially blind. Do you know Raul Galvero from Batangas? I think he's a 15-minute, 15:15 or something. He runs for the 5,000. He's a partially blind runner, so he's going for the Paralympics. There's a long jumper who just needs 10 centimeters from 620 to 630 to qualify for Tokyo 2021. Now, here's the interesting part. The Olympic Games were won in 1097 and 48.67 last 2016. However, the world records in bags 12 partially blind category are much faster at 10.44 and 47.79, which was set last year at the championships. So these are times, the 10.44 was set at the in Oslo against stable-bodied athletes. So there are athletes in the Paralympics. That's cool, Stephen. If you need to head off.
Sorry. Sorry about that, mate. Because I need to take care of it. Okay. We'll do it again next time.
Okay, thanks, Stephen.
Thanks for having me here, guys. And then, nice meeting you, Coach Ariel. And then let's try to catch up next time.
Okay, thanks.
Cheers.
Okay. Okay, so just carrying on this presentation. So there's athletes in the Paralympics, that are running against able-bodied athletes because, the top athletes there are still quite world-class athletes. We now have updated information on how tough this is actually going to be for Bagsit in this event once he gets through the qualifications, because he's up against athletes that have, in the 100, this guy has a better PB than he does. In the 400, this guy's running 47s, which are pretty good as well. So next, UAP athletics evaluation over the last 5 UAPs, men's events. I did tables, as I was explaining with Stephen before, ranks UAP scores in each event based on the average improvement or decline over a 5-year period based on the total average of all athletes, sample from the men's. So I've done all the women's track events, most of the women's track events doing the men's now. This is the link if you want to find more of this data. So, for example, in the men's events, this is a listing of UAAP men's 100 meters over the last 5 years. So at first as UP with an average improvement rate per athlete per year of 0.21 seconds. So once you go down to number 5, Sal, basically it's a nil improvement over the last 5 years based on the data. Then the bottom teams for the 100 meters in the men's have got significant declines, and in some cases this can be due to athletes pulling hamstrings, going over lines with rather much slower times, which has led to a severe drop penalty in the overall average of the school for that particular event. Okay, so all this data is available on Pinoy Athletics, evaluation of athletes' improvements at UAAP, which is a gauge of performances in each event for each school on average. Okay. Now, next slide. So, next, 16-year-old clocked 20:33 for the 200 meters at the Junior Nationals. So, 16-year-old Irian Knighton in 2004 clocked a stunning 20.33 at the AAU Junior Olympics in Florida. Shattered the US under-18 national record. The second fastest boy in history, only behind Usain Bolt on the all-time list. His time even bettered the previous US 19-year-old mark of 20.37 by Brighton Lambton. Knighton also at 15 ran 47.48 over the 400 and ran a swift 10.45 to qualify for the 100 final the AAU. This was faster than the winning time at the same meet for the 17 to 18-year-old category, which was won by Robert Gregory Jr. in a big PB of 20.65 into head of Norman Robinson in 2091 and Brandon Miller in 21.5. Okay, so this is just some stuff regarding athletes I'm coaching at the moment. We had testing week for sprints. This is like some tests we did. So we did around 35 meters, 6 times with 10-second recovery. So this rest, running-based anaerobic sprint testing designed to measure anaerobic power and capacity. Followed by a quadrathlon test, which involved 30 meters, standing long jumps, 3 bunny hops, and overhead throws. Next week, I'm going back to week 1 of part 2 of my general phase training. Obviously, there are some athletes who haven't done the workouts. That's mainly because of the COVID restrictions, making it impossible for them to carry out these tasks. With Manila going back into MECQ. So with my own weight program, I increased my deadlift back from 150 to 155 for 2 reps. Bench, decreased the number of reps. Clean and jerk was able to do the same number of repetitions. So heading back towards best lifts for that. Okay, now we'll wrap up now. Okay, so additional notes. I've already covered the example of the 2 athletes when I was explaining the importance of rest and recovery. We discussed that earlier with Stephen. So EJLBN is a competition coming up August the 14th in Monaco and August one of the Diamond League, August 17th, a 3-way online challenge. Ebooks, we are looking at, Athletics is looking at with some of our materials, we're providing about 10% of what Knowledge Base has. We're looking at selling publications in terms of ebooks, which will be coming up. We also require someone who, as we're getting a lot of affiliates now in terms of cross selling complementary products. We're looking for someone who's good on e-commerce and creating automated forms. If you know somebody or if you're that person, please email me at pinoyathletics@gmail.com so we can negotiate a fee for creating an online marketplace. Okay. Anyhow, that was all. Okay, so again, thank you everybody for tuning in for this late edition of Athletics Track Talk Speed Talk Saturday. We will next be online for Track Talk Tuesday, and we will have announcements on that session close to the day. Thank you.